guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm back. The brown lipstick is back. All is good in the world. Today we are doing my December wrap up, and if you haven't seen my last video, I mentioned that I did not reach my 2019 reading goal. It's fine. I'm over it. I've accepted it. I'm cool with it, but I did feel like I gave it my best shot in December. I think I read about 5 books, so I mean it wasn't terrible. It was definitely one of my higher reading months, so I gave it my best, so I'm totally fine with it. With that being said, let me tell you about the books I read in December. Also, surprisingly, I read no physical books in the month of December. They were all either audiobooks or ebooks. The first book I finished in the month of December was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, and this is part of the Grisha trilogies, which is getting turned into a Netflix series, which I'm very excited. That is kind of the whole reason why I have started the Grisha trilogy. I've read Six of Crows, just the first one. I still have to finish, or I still have to read Crooked Kingdom. But I want to know more. I want to be able to recognize all the characters and the scenes and to be able to accurately compare the books with the series. So that's why I have started it. I was really torn between a 3 and a 4 stars. Like, I enjoyed it a lot, but I don't think I reached the level of like, I love it in order to be a 4 stars. So I think it's more of a 3.5. I liked it. I thought it was good. The writing was great. The characters all grew on me pretty much. Mal, I've heard a lot of terrible things about Mal. I thought it was pretty bland in this first book, but I have heard he gets worse. I did read this as an audiobook, so maybe that impacted my enjoyment of it. I thought the narrator did so well. I loved her, the way she read it. It was just great. I loved it. The Darkling really is a delicious villain. Like, he was just great. I thought I really liked the Darkling. I did like the Darkling more than I liked Mal. I know you're not supposed to, but the Darkling just, there's something about the Darkling. And I'm really excited to see Ben Barnes' take on the Darkling. Part of the book that I really loved was Jenya's and Alina's friendship. Like, that was just everything. Even in some of the low moments that Alina was going through, that friendship, the little like banter, it was just great. I really, bless you, I really loved it. The second book I read was The Wrath of the Fury by Michelle Maddow, and this was actually a free ebook. All of the ebooks on this list were free that I found on Amazon through the Kindle app thing. This is a prequel book to an Elemental series by Michelle Maddow. I don't think it was necessarily a prequel, it was just like background information. The description said it could be read either as a prequel, in the middle, or after. So I figured I might as well read it first to get some of the background information. I gave it a 2 stars because I feel like there was a lot of information, but because I wasn't familiar with the series, I didn't know what to do with that information. Like, there was a lot of points kind of thrown out there, but I didn't know how to connect them all. There was this whole thing with like colors that I didn't understand. I was just left more confused. We met 3 characters, and then at the end of the book it said that we don't see any of these people until like the 4th book in the series. So like, hopefully it will make more sense later, but I just felt like it was advertised wrongly by saying you could read it as a prequel before the series, because honestly it just leaves you way more confused about everything. I mean, it was kind of enjoyable. It was kind of, not enjoyable, but it was interesting. I didn't enjoy it. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but it was interesting enough that it was more than a 1 star. I did read the first book of this series, so I will go more into the description about it in a second. Next, I read an audiobook recommended to me by Emily over at M Likes Books. It was Dark Places by Gillian Flynn, and I gave it a 3 stars. It was okay. It was a thriller, so this is a thriller with an unreliable narrator. It deals with Libby, who is the only surviving member of her family's massacre other than her brother, who is in prison for being the murderer. Axed her mother, shot her 2 little sisters, so Libby's really the only innocent survivor of that massacre. She's had a really rough life. She's not really well adjusted. She's in her 30s, but doesn't really know what to do. She doesn't know how to adult. Her money from a trust that is made up of donations that were given by people because of the tragedy is running out. So she's having to deal with, I don't think I can function in a normal job, in a normal 9 to 5. But I'm also running out of money, so I need to find a quick way to make cash. And basically, just a series of events make her start questioning, is my brother the murderer? Was it really him? Like, what caused him to murder my entire family? And so it's told through Libby's point of view in present day. It's told in her mother's point of view a day before the murders, and then a little bit of her brother Ben's point of view also before the murders. So it was interesting just figuring out how everything unraveled, whether or not Ben was the murderer or not, how everything exactly happened that night. Libby was only, I think, 7, so her memory is kind of wonky. I didn't like the ending, but I think that was just because it was kind of left open as to how things turned out with certain people. I'm definitely the kind of person who likes everything tied up in bows at the end. It's really a tragic story. It's just a series of coincidences that snowballed into such a tragedy. Although I didn't absolutely love this book and I only gave it a 3 stars, I am open to reading more from this author. Next, I read The Prophecy of Shadows, which is the first book in the Elemental series by Michelle Maddow. I gave this book a 2.5 stars because although I think it has potential to be a really great series, this book just really was not what I was looking for. When new girl Nicole appears in homeroom, her world is turned upside down by the revelation that she's actually a witch. To make matters worse, there's also a prophecy that predicts the portal to the prison world, keeping the Titans locked away, will be reopened. The premise sounds promising. It has all the elements to be a perfect home run. We have witches, we have Greek Olympian gods, we have elemental magic, which is my absolute favorite magic. And it failed. It let me down so hard. So these witches live amongst us in the modern world. What makes them witches is that they have very, very, very diluted Olympian god blood. So they are direct descendants from the Greek Olympians. This book, the whole plot was basically a scavenger hunt. Which, why would ancient year-old Olympian gods in Greece hide all of these all-important items in New England, America, is beyond me. First of all, that didn't make any sense. I was also distracted by Nicole and her damn horniness all the time for the bad boy Blake. Like, this girl kept having to remind herself, like, I need to stop looking at Blake. Like, I need I need to focus on the task. Really? Really? Every little bit, like, she kept having to force herself to stop drooling over Blake in order to focus on, like, life or death situations. The end reveal, there was this big end reveal that seemed pretty damn important. Like, I knew it should be really, really important. I just felt like the characters weren't reacting to it the way I thought they should be. Made me feel like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Even though, like, the dialogue was saying that it was, their actions just didn't reflect that. I will say the magic system was quite interesting. So the normal witches, like regular witch magic, is only mental. They can't do anything physical. I would relate it to kind of like Jasper from Twilight, where he can manipulate your moods. That's kind of what these witches could do. And it was really cool because they would do it by focusing on certain color wavelengths. So for example, if you focused on the color red, it increases your confidence. If you focus on green, success, choosing the correct path. And then they did have like the bad colors, like gray, for example, which was not taught in school, made you disoriented. They talk about a certain witch who used gray magic against a girl and she ended up in a car crash, and I think she ended up basically like comatose. So gray is bad. Then there's black, which is illegal, which the way they described it made it seem like black was basically death. And that's illegal. Like, if you practice black magic, you're stripped of your witch powers, which this community of elder witches is in charge of doing. So there is like a hierarchy, but we don't really see the elders much, which again just makes everything seem not as important as it should be. Again, that's what the majority of witches can do. That's the only thing witches can do. But these 5, Nicole and 4 of her other classmates, are able to control the elements after an all-powerful comet flies by over their town. No one can really explain it, how, why it happened. The character development was just awful. I just couldn't with the characters. They were all cardboard characters. None of them were fleshed out. I couldn't sympathize with any of them, really. Our main character, Nicole, suffers from snowflake syndrome, where she's just special because she's new, like she's just a special snowflake. And then at the end of the book, it's like, oh look, wait, no, she's even more special. So we have Nicole, the main character. We have the broody bad boy with the rich, bitchy girlfriend. We also have a comedic side and brainiac characters, which I could not even tell you what their names were. The 2 side characters, broody bad boy is Blake, rich bitch girlfriend is Danielle. But the 2 other side characters, I cannot. The brainiac girl, the only reason I remembered her was because she was just there to dump large amounts of information. We know basically nothing about them, so I don't remember anything of it. The writing, it just seemed really choppy, like, I don't know, it wasn't great. It didn't capture me. For some reason, I don't know if it was the writing, the plot, or the characters, I just kept getting pulled out of the moment. I never fully immersed myself into this world that we were trying to build. It was just strange. The elemental magic wasn't really used. Like, everyone had their own little moment of shine, but it was just very brief. I went in wanting elemental magic, and then I didn't even get that very much. I don't know if I'm going to continue with the series. I just had a lot of problems with it. It didn't blow my mind. I really didn't love it. I might try the second book. I don't know. The last book I read in the month of December was also a free ebook about elemental magic. I was really focused on wanting to read books with elemental magic because, like I said, that's my favorite magic system and I don't read enough about it. I read Broken Elements, which is the first book in the Elements series by Mia Marshall, and I gave this a 3.5 stars. 10 years ago, Aiden Brooke, a powerful half-blood water, and her best friend, Seraphina Blaze, a powerful fire, thought they could take down a serial killer of the elemental kind. They almost succeeded, but when Aiden's powers failed her, people died. Flash forward to present day, and Aiden is living peacefully in seclusion in Oregon. But when Sarah shows up at her doorstep with news of another murder, she has no choice but to finish what she started. But Aiden's inability to harness her power in times of distress may lead to another death, and Aiden isn't sure she could handle that. Not only is Aiden dealing with a power blockage, but now the FBI is involved and looking straight at her and Sarah. How can they explain what's going on without looking absolutely insane? So I will say this book was much more murder mystery than fantasy based, but I loved it. I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. The writing was amazing. Like, I was fully into this book, into this world, what was going on. Again, it was set in modern present day, but I was still just sucked into this world and these characters right away. And the elemental basis for how they get their powers was actually really logical. Everything, they were able to tie back their elemental beginnings to the creation of Earth, kind of. They had a very elaborate mythos for their background. Also, the actual use of their powers is of the natural world, I guess. For example, Aiden is a water, and when she was using her powers, she described it as pulling particles from the earth, like the oxygen molecules and tying them together to hydrogen in order to create water. So it just seemed really cool and logical. I will say there was no air elementals, and they distinguished between water elementals and ice elementals, and that kind of threw me off. It didn't really make total sense to me. Their reasoning behind not having any air elementals is that air isn't a part of the world's landscape, which again ties back to their elaborate mythos that they had. So that kind of threw me off. The character development. I don't know if I thought this book was so great because I had read such a not so great book before it, but I just thought the character development was so great. It was this group of friends who all just came together to work and solve these murders, and I just love that, like the found family trope. I love that. It was great. Again, we didn't know a whole lot about these characters, but I connected with them so much. Like, I thought these were people I could meet and be friends with, and it was fantastic. Their interactions just felt so realistic, and the witty banter between some of them was just great. There is a little bit of romance, but it didn't overshadow the main plot, which I thought was good, but I am also interested to see how the romance flows. The murder mystery plot kept me interested throughout the entire book. At the end, the big reveal, I did not see that coming. It was the last person. Like, what? Where did they come from? What? It was a shock. Basically, my only complaint was with this book is that I wish we would have seen more of the elemental magic in play. I feel like there was a lot more used towards the end. But again, I just wanted a bigger serving of elemental magic. That's really what I was looking for. But again, it makes sense because this was more focused on the murder mystery aspect than the elemental magic. Also, if the camera keeps moving, my dog loves to lay against the tripod. Overall, it was a really strong first book, and I am actually really excited to pick up the second one. So those are all of the books that I read in the month of December. Sorry if I was kind of all over the place. It's been a little bit since I've read them, and I need to do a better job of keeping notes of my books. If you liked any of the books that I mentioned and are interested in reading any of them, definitely leave me a comment down below. Also, if you have any suggestions of books with elemental magic systems in it, please leave me a comment. I want to read a lot more of them in 2020. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Elle. Good luck on your 2020 reading goals, and I'll see you in next time's video.